My name is Jordana Lebowitz, and I was a participant on the March of the Living in April of 2012. The March of the Living changed my life. As I walked the blood-stained streets of Poland, I felt a connection to those that suffered, the ones that survived, who pulled through the suffering with every last breath of hope that they possessed, and those that did not make it to Liberation Day. I developed an understanding of humanity, the power that we possess, the resilience that we can harness, and in contrast, the evil that can be sparked within us. Most of all, I learned how we are all connected in a narrative that impacts us all. I learned a profound lesson on that trip about how we are all responsible for one another. I saw the ashes, the crematoria, the piles of hair, suitcases, and shoes. I touched the scratches on the walls of the gas chambers. I heard the screams and I smelled the fear that once permeated through the camps. I needed to know more. I needed to do more. How did this happen and how does it affect us today? What can we do now? On Yom HaShoah, 8 years ago today, I composed a poem which I left in Auschwitz. Today we marched. We marched for the victims, we marched for the survivors, for their mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers. We march for our people, remembering our past. When we march together, we make memories last. We are strong and we are everlasting. When we stand together, united forever, humanity's torch will never be extinguished as long as we keep our history in our hearts. We march for the victims, we march for the survivors. We march to honor life, we march for the living. Staring into the abyss that was the death camps, the ashes, the sorrow, I could not accept that this was the end of the story. It couldn't be. I could do my part in making a more tolerant world in the shadow of the Holocaust, for those that perished and those that survived. This is the time. We are the last generation that is going to be able to hear from Holocaust survivors, and we must become the witnesses as young people. What Holocaust education will look like in the future is up to us. When you are driven by your ideals and committed to trying as hard as you can, we can make real change with the support of our communities and our leaders. In 2015, I led an initiative to bring a replica of a Holocaust cattle car to my university campus. That same year, I accompanied my March of the Living survivors to Germany to witness the trial of former SS officer Oskar Groening. In that courtroom, Groening testified that from where he stood in Auschwitz, he thought that there would never be a Jewish people ever again. And yet I sat in that courtroom next to Holocaust survivors who witnessed that very same scene. We are alive, we made it, as a nation and as humanity. In these challenging times, as coronavirus surges and people feel more isolated than ever, I think about each and every person sitting in one experience, not in one room, in many rooms. The March of 2020 may not be going ahead, but the messages of the March are present in every single home across the entire world. We suffer together, we die together, we live together. We continue to live through our responsibility to one another, and we thrive when we become witnesses, dedicating ourselves to creating the end of the story as we envision. March 2020 participants, you are witnesses to more than we ever were. Take that story into your hands and bring the messages of the March home.